Hey everyone, welcome back to Tickets to Travel, the business of travel experiences. I'm your host, Mario Bedouin, and today's episode is one that might just restore your faith in ticketing platforms and humanity. Let me set the scene. You walk away from a high-powered hedge fund or a cushy engineering job, not to chase unicorns, but to flip the ticketing game on its head. Enter Humanitix, the nonprofit ticketing platform that's turned live events into a force for good. They've donated over $10 million. Receipts are online at humanitix.com to causes like education, healthcare, accessibility, the environment, and of course, basic human needs. This isn't hype. This is impact at scale. And who better to walk us through this mission-driven model than Jessica Markowitz, one of Humanitix's earliest U.S. team members. Jess didn't grow up dreaming of ticketing software, but she did dream of making the world a better place. From NGO work to a life-changing loss to discovering Humanitix via a Sam Harris podcast, as one does, of course, her journey to compassionate capitalism is anything but ordinary. This conversation is about more than just fees and features. We get into the DNA of Humanitix, how they went from a Sydney side project to surpassing Eventbrite in Australia, how they're helping organizers from 10-person yoga retreats to 30,000-person festivals, and why making a tech product with a soul actually matters and works. So whether you're a live event pro, a nonprofit fundraiser, or someone just trying to find purpose in a spreadsheet, this episode is for you. So stick around and remember, every ticket is a ticket to travel, and maybe, just maybe, a ticket to changing the world. So follow us on all the socials at Tix2TravelPod. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcast, because Tickets to Travel starts now. Welcome to Tickets to Travel, the business of travel experiences. I'm your host, Mario Bedouin, and today on the pod, we have Jessica Markowitz. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
You've been in ticketing for a little while now at this point, right, Jess? I know you're with Humanitix now, but what sort of brought you into being in the ticketing world?
Yeah, great question. Definitely didn't see myself in ticketing. Wasn't my passion in life at all. But my calling was the nonprofit world and giving back. And so I worked for a lot of different NGOs during college, right out of college. And then I actually went through a really traumatic loss of my brother and was leaving the nonprofit I currently worked at because I was searching for more purpose. Nonprofits do give you a lot of purpose, but I felt like after this loss and after working for a lot of organizations that do great work, I wanted to find more in order to find that greater purpose. And so I was actually listening to a Sam Harris podcast, heard about Humanitix. Now, what captured me wasn't the ticketing element. It's what they were doing with being a social enterprise, combining nonprofit and business to create compassionate capitalism. That was brilliant. And my brother was a DJ. So I found this really beautiful connection to music, to the nonprofit world, and to purpose. And that's literally what landed me here. I had never worked in business development, in ticketing, but I thought that it could be a really excellent way to try and make change in the world. So I jumped in, entry-level role, and here I am now helping to run the team of Humanitix. We started as 3 of us, and we're now almost 20 in the United States, 60 across the globe. So that's the short story of how I got.
It's an amazing story. I know there's a couple of different topics we'll obviously cover, but one thing that you called out too, so you work for NGOs. And so you understand maybe the travel element to what we talk about, because these are typically different countries that obviously want to boost tourism, but also ecotourism, sustainability, things of this nature. And so it's interesting now you work for a company that can take that nonprofit background and merge it with live events. And obviously we talk about travel here as well. And was there anything in particular in your NGO experience prior to coming where you're like, hey, there's something that's missing in how the communication's done or how they raise funds? Or was there anything that sort of stuck out that is more relatable to you now that you've been ticketing that you said, hey, you know what? If these guys would have thought about this in this other world, it would have made things a lot easier, better, smoother.
Absolutely. Really great question. That was exactly it, actually, is the fact that I think in the nonprofit world, in fundraising, which is what I worked in specifically, we get very caught up in the traditional ways that we fundraise, that we go about the work that we do, which is really important and excellent work that is crucial for our world. However, there seems to be a place we get stumped. There's a lack of innovation, a fear of change, an entrepreneurial mindset that might be outside of the box of what we're used to as a charity. And so that's why I think using tech and this combination of capitalism, that we don't have to fear capitalism to make a change in the world, we can actually utilize it. And just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean that you can't be a little creative and innovative, which is why the social enterprise model is actually so brilliant and now is becoming more and more popular, but hasn't always been. It's newer, I would say. So I think that's exactly right. Some of the things I notice now is that we at Humanitix have a lot more sustainability because of the model. The ticketing helps to continue to keep our revenue, to keep our charitable donations going. Everything is flowing more consistently and sustainably versus as a nonprofit. If we didn't get that one donation or that one grant, maybe we're stuck where we are. So that's one element.
No, I think it's a major element. So essentially what I hear you saying is that there's a lack of hustle. Because I think about it the same way travel. Like, hey, yeah, we have technology and there's innovation, but not really, because a lot of these systems are so old that it takes a long time for that innovation to take hold. When I start talking to more entertainment or live events people, seems to be is hustle, right? There's always sort of ramp up into the live event or the preparation. So if you're lazy, you get exposed very quickly.
Yeah.
And they're constantly innovating to try to make efficiencies and to make the overall kind of guest or fan experience much better. So I think it's a really interesting sort of relationship, I think, in your experience, that now you've gotten to a point where, yes, you have this giving aspect to Humanitix, but it's coupled with this sort of energy, right? This hustling energy to put on a live event or whatever projects that you work with.
Humanitix puts humanity first and gives every fee a purpose. With Humanitix, every ticket you sell funds education, accessibility, and opportunity. No profits for shareholders, just impact. Join the movement. Learn more at humanitix.com.
What if you could simplify your trip, skip the lines, and save up to 50% off at the world's best attractions? With GoCity, you can. One pass, one app, and full access to top experiences in 25 plus cities, including Chicago, London, Paris, and New York. GoCity helps travelers win at sightseeing without the stress. Visit GoCity.com and use code TTTPOD25 for 10% off your next pass. So let's learn a little bit about Humanitix. Like, sort of drove the idea of this giving platform that is ticketing. The origin story for Humanitix.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story. And I won't do them justice, but I will certainly try. I'm a founding employee, but not a founder.
Oh,
just the OG. Yeah,
let's hear it.
I'm one of the first employees, so I really got to see it from start to finish in the US. But the very beginning years were back in Sydney, Australia, 2016. Adam and Josh, best friends from home, went to school together, high school. And they, incredible jobs, careers, lives, they had no need to disrupt it, but decided to. They did this after they went traveling and saw some extreme poverty and decided to reflect upon their lives and if they were doing what they actually were called to do. And so Josh and Adam started thinking, okay, what can we do? Which, speaking of hustle, a lot of people don't want to make change in their life if things are going well. Adam was an engineer. Josh was at a hedge fund. Things were good. Like they made it for themselves.
Right.
However, this is what makes them so special. They decided to change what they were doing and change their path. So they thought together, what is an industry that could be disrupted, that would be effective and maybe help redirect into more philanthropic efforts. That's a huge concept to think about. But they landed on ticketing because they knew that this was a massive industry with a lot of money and an opportunity. Now, there's obviously tons of different ticketing platforms, but had anybody ever tried a platform that was a nonprofit, that was a 501c3 with no shareholders, that could still level up to the rest of the platforms that exist in terms of technologies, efficiencies, features, not leveling themselves down because they're a charity, but actually remaining at that same scale and reputation, right, as these other platforms. There's sometimes you buy a product in a shop because it goes to a good cause, not because you like the product. They wanted this to be a product that you want to use. And wow, I also get to give back. Awesome. But that's just the added benefit. And so that's the model that they came up with. They launched it with a small family and friends dinner. They called it Humanitix because they wanted to bring the human and the humanity into ticketing, which is still lacking today, but is now being changed actively by us, for example. And it took off. It took off in Sydney, and they had extreme support from their community, from their friends, and then suddenly from the entire country. They're now bigger than Eventbrite in Australia due to their success, launched into the US, which is where I came in. But one of the coolest parts that I'll mention about their story is one of them decided to give up their job, Adam, so that he could focus on building this platform from scratch. And that was over a handshake. They decided which one of us should give up our job. The other one will work so we can self-fund this product. So Adam gave up his job. Josh kept working, and together they built this platform from scratch. So that is the true hustle and founder story that made this beautiful company today.
Amazing. I saw something online say, you should stop saying amazing because it's like everybody says. Attribute this particular story to that. And that, so there's obviously some questions. If I didn't know you guys were bigger than Eventbrite Australia. That is a feat because they're very in the event producer ticketing segment. What do we call this segment of ticketing? How do you guys define it?
Yeah, good question. So we think of it as self-service ticketing. Eventbrite and Humanitix were a self-service platform. And the reason why we were able to surpass an Eventbrite, for example, is not only time, right? It takes time to build that credibility, but there were a lot of key things, which was the fees. We noticed that fees are extremely high across all platforms, not just Eventbrite. Of course, we know Ticketmaster, some of the larger players here. But just across the board, it can be very expensive to just put on an event and want to sell tickets. And so we wanted to come to the table, again, with the right features and technology, but also a gesture to ticket buyers and to event organizers to use a platform that won't break the bank and still allow them to do what they need to do and sell their tickets at a fee that feels fair.
No, I appreciate the designation. That's what we run into a lot of is what's the difference between a Ticketmaster, a StubHub, and a Universe, and now Humanitix. And that's the thing. It's not one size fits all. There's a different use case for everyone. So whether you're a festival promoter, that's one piece. If you are a venue, that's another. And so what's been the sweet spot really for Humanitix over the years?
So that's the funny part about Humanitix is we have events with 10 people up to 30,000 people. So the sweet spot can be anywhere in between. And the types of events can really be a huge range from a yoga workshop to a music festival. Music festivals and different festivals in Australia was how we actually really got started. The festival community, when we go back to that kind of hustle component, they don't fear change. They're excited to jump in. They're usually quite creative folks who want to lean into something like this. So a lot of our largest events began with festivals in Australia, which has now also continued into the US. I would say in the United States, we've got all kinds of different events that, again, range from maybe a festival more in like the food and wine area here we've come across as well. We've got tons of different markets, like Vintage Market Days is a market that was one of our first clients of mine, actually. And they have 50 markets across the United States. These are cool little open market events that folks drop in. This was perfect for Humanitix to help support. It doesn't have to be a festival. There's just like such a massive range. It's just a matter of, do we have the right features for you? Do you ethically align with our mission? And from there, we'll make it work together. So yeah, huge range.
You can basically accommodate anything per se, but calling out, do you ethically align with our mission is interesting. So is a 501c3. Does that mean that by using the ticketing system, you get a tax write-off? That you're, one, a charity in of itself that you are giving to other organizations? Or does that also mean, thirdly, does that mean that the event producer can also pick a charity to use platform to donate to?
So no tax write-off for using Humanitix because you're using our service. So there's a fee for service, and the donation component comes in with the fact that we donate 100% of our profits. So that comes back to the model where we still operate as a business. So if you were to come and sell tickets with us, we're operating at a very much business level. However, your event will produce funds that are getting donated each year to our organizations.
Got it.
The reason we don't have organizers choose a charity is very purposeful. And the reason for that is Josh and Adam and our founders came together and at first said, okay, what if everybody gave to their favorite cause? Every event organizer can choose to a different fund that calls to them. It gets very complex and also scatters the impact. So it's a little unclear what we're actually trying to do. So that's where this idea of let's give to education. That's our founding principle. The foundation of our donations will be to give to education, which can alleviate poverty on a huge, large umbrella level. And so Atlassian, which is a massive software company out of Australia, was one of our first funders to lean into the Humanitix mission and support Humanitix in their global launch. And the Atlassian Foundation has a whole team that's dedicated to finding organizations that are really measuring their impact, that are focused in the impact area that you would like to give to. And so they sat with us and really helped us focus on, okay, what are these partner charities that we should be giving to so that we can communicate to our event organizers and our ticket buyers very clearly what it is that we're doing with our profits. So education was how that began. It is still primarily what we give to, but we have some other partners now that give to different health efforts, different kind of variety of ways to alleviate poverty, whether it be through health, education, technology. There's still mainly giving to education, but there are a few more that we've added over time. And this is something that we're very transparent about on our website and to our hosts, exactly how much we've given. You can even see the receipts of our donations. It's all public information that we are very communicative about.
You also have a means for if I'm an event producer, but I also want to raise money for another organization, whether it be an education, it doesn't matter, within a community. You probably have a means to do that, right? In terms of a fee structure or something where it's either post-sale or within the booking flow to allow someone to donate to a certain, just so that they can allocate it, right?
Absolutely. So on the platform itself, you have a ticket section, and then you also have the option, every single person who creates an event, they see an option to add a donation section. You can write a whole blurb about what the donations would go to, and that's on our nonprofit fee structure. So anyone who's donating really is just paying credit card processing to give that donation, which is what you would pay to do any kind of donation.
Yeah, I wanted to make that distinction because I think I didn't understand previously that you guys have your own set of Asian charities and such that you work. But I think a lot of people, as I'm thinking about it, would say, there are people I want to donate to.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So I'm pretty sure just you guys have some type of mechanism to allow people
100%. Yeah. And in addition to that, we have a lot of nonprofits on our platform. And the reason why they're on our platform is because we have a lot of cool different features, such as the donation feature, that are built for nonprofits. As a nonprofit ourselves, we understand what's needed that might be a little more niche than a different ticketing platform. And so not only do we have the donation section, we have tax deductible receipts that can be automated, right, through the system. There's a lot of different features that support nonprofits in addition to having lower fee structure. So compared to Eventbrite, you're going to find that our fees are 40% less as a nonprofit organization, which is a lot of money to save. As we all know, nonprofits are on a budget and trying to do the good work. Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's just an interesting space to be in when you start looking at artists, promoters, venues, and fees, and how those fees and those ticket prices get set to a particular fan or any type of guest. And so do you at Humanitix, do you guys take a look at or provide pricing sort of direction, or how do you guys typically have that conversation with an event organizer?
So we've come up with a standard fee structure and a nonprofit fee structure that we feel is fair and is typically going to be at a discounted rate from what they'll be used to. Again, it depends on which platform they're coming from. And obviously, we still have a necessity to pay our staff, right? To, once again, back to that model, we still operate like a business. And so we pay really fair and competitive salaries while still being able to donate and have a profit margin of around 30%, which goes to our donations. And so we've come up with this fee structure that feels very fair, and it's across the board, US, UK, New Zealand, and Australia, where the charities and the schools always have a discounted rate. And I think the other piece is that we are a human, right? Human-based organization. And so we're very open to having conversations with our hosts if they need on-site support, if we're going to be more involved, if they need extra training. There's all kinds of things that we can speak to about a custom fee structure as well. There's no need for a kind of set in stone contract for 5 years. You're locked in. That's it. There's a lot that goes into the conversation around what's going to work best for you. Is Humanitix the right fit? And what are these fees going to look like if they're outside of our standard?
Understood. So you're more flexible than most ticketing companies, at least that I've encountered to a certain degree. And obviously, you're the good guys in a lot. It's from
we try to be.
Yeah, no, but that's a focused effort to do that, to build a culture around that, as opposed to we're just trying to make as much money as possible.
Exactly. I think the culture is a really good point you bring up that Josh and Adam have created from day one. Our entire staff is here not because they want to become billionaires. They're here because they want to live a good life with purpose and, of course, pay their bills, do what they need to do, but also come to work with a smile on their face. We're all here authentically as ourselves, which is very rare in a corporate ticketing world. And it's actually a key piece of how we interview folks is we want you to show up as who you are. We want to see you with your mask off. We don't want to see Jessica with her mask on. And that culture corresponds into how we do our business. And so we have very close relationships with our organizers. I actually shared with many of them that I'm coming up on my maternity leave so that they know why I'm not here anymore. I've been working with them for 3 years. It's a big piece of the culture and how you actually also do business. And so we try our best. And that's where our customer support also differs from a lot of platforms because you'll actually speak to a human and be able to get that support that you need, where in tech, it can be very difficult. You're speaking to a bot. You're not getting your questions answered. We wanted to disrupt that space as well.
Funny you say that because as a consultant, I have many AI clients who come in and say, hey, let me talk to companies and we're going to make things a lot easier. And no, I understand that there's a lot of challenges with scale. There has to be a model or a thought in terms of how you actually get to a person. And how you scale the human aspect to that is really hard. Again, everyone's looking at efficiencies to effectively save money and get a better result. Because if you can weed out as many kind of low-level questions that can be answered by a bot, then you get to the more complex questions that you need a human to, until the AI gets to that point and can solve those things. But it definitely sounds like a concerted effort on your culture there to make sure that it's people first.
Exactly. And that goes into the product too, right? I think a lot of platforms you come across can be quite clunky, a little confusing. When you buy a ticket, you have to log in, make an account. Humanitix took away a lot of that. So you don't need an account on Humanitix. No need to log in to just buy a ticket. Everything these days is data. So taking away cart abandonment for event organizers, make it a nice, simple click. Let me just buy my ticket. That's a huge effort that goes into the human aspect. Just make it simple, make it more enjoyable, make it fluid. And I think for the event organizer as well, being able to jump on to Humanitix and build an event in 20 minutes if they need to, it's doable. Again, it depends on the event, right? But it doesn't need to be complicated to just throw up an event. Events are amazing, bring people together, do beautiful things. Why does it need to be so tricky to know where to drag your banner image? It should just be a click and drop.
If you know a little bit about the internet or you know a little bit about answering emails, you should know drag and drop here. And
exactly.
So I think that's something that resonates, or what comes through in chatting with you, is that you're really passionate about the brand, the technology. Yeah. Was there a particular event that really sealed the deal for you that you worked on, that you brought it in and you're like, man, these are all the stars aligning?
I spoke with this awesome Coloradan who we're based here in Denver, Colorado. And I had continued to call this festival called Rhythms on the Rio. And it's this beautiful community-based festival. It's quite a few hours away from Colorado on this beautiful river. And I didn't know any of the artists that were playing. There's a huge kind of bluegrass community here in Colorado, and I'm more of a hip hop girl. It was an adjustment for me, but I continued to call them, and eventually I ended up having a conversation with this amazing individual who is volunteering his time to run this event. It's a complete nonprofit music festival on the river, community-based, has been for years. And when we finally got in touch, they were so excited to partner, and we made it happen. First year went great. Then they invited me to their board meeting. I met the board of their nonprofit. We got to strategize together. The different folks that worked in marketing and branding and myself and ticketing were there. So it was really an incredible, collaborative event and of coming together and putting on this festival rather than, we're just the ticketers, we'll do our own thing. And it's now become a friendship. We speak about our families and our backgrounds, and we're locally in Colorado. And now there are folks around Colorado, which is really where we put our feet into the ground to start here in the US. There are folks across Colorado now who know who we are, who are grateful for what we do. And as a music festival that's also a nonprofit, the fact that we can align ethically in what Humanitix is trying to do just creates this really magical moment. So when you buy a ticket to the festival, you can actually be excited and read in your confirmation where your profits go from that ticket, from the booking fees. And so Scott from Rhythms on the Rio is one of my favorite stories. We still chat all the time, and they are on their third year of using Humanitix happily at their super cool river festival. So
that's amazing. And you're probably now a bluegrass fan, right? You're probably
still working on that. Yeah, still working on that.
Trust me,
there's not enough hip hop in Colorado. I went to school in New York, a lot more hip hop, but we're working on it.
Yeah. So the thing that I'm keying on, I love that story, is that really what you're talking about is community, right?
Yes.
Creating the community within what you do and trying to find the right people that, every year they're going to have the festival. They're going to utilize the same partners as long as everyone's on the up and everyone makes money together. And that's how you want to build out some of these relationships. So better question for you, Jess, is that you talk to a lot of promoters in general, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, ticketing aside, what do you think they're all looking for to create a successful festival?
I think with promoters specifically, it can be a little tricky to lean into Humanitix sometimes with event promoters because there is that fear of change. In the United States, we are still building our credibility. We're 4 years old and people fear change. People fear a new brand. So I think that with promoters, we have had a lot of success, obviously, with tons of different events, as I mentioned. But I do think that there is still that that roadblock with certain promoters, because at the end of the day, it is tough to put on an event if everybody isn't getting what they need from the financial standpoint, from the feature standpoint, which is a big part of something we stand by too. We're not going to be for everybody. Humanitix is not necessarily your solution. And that's okay. There's lots of platforms that don't work for everybody. But I think if we can find promoters where we can build that relationship and really make it beneficial for both parties, that's where it can become that beautiful partnership. But it does depend. And I think promoters have a tough time making everybody happy.
Distribution. Can you help me sell the ticket? I'm going to use the platform, but can you help me sell the ticket? What do you guys typically...
Great question.
In that when that comes up?
Yeah, this is distribution and marketing is a huge question and huge objection that we hear all the time. And there is a lot of miscommunication and confusing data out there on what platforms actually do to market your event. The miscommunication is that ultimately the event organizer can do the most for themselves in marketing. That is the truth. That is the baseline truth. And the reason for that is because they know their audience. They actually have tools based on the data they're collecting that they can do the best marketing themselves. We call it organic marketing. The way that Humanitix tackles this, there are no features on Humanitix that cost money. So some platforms will charge you. You want to send 10 push email campaigns, that's going to cost you $10 per push. You want to upload a list of your followers, that's going to cost you. Humanitix doesn't charge for a feature. That's not a part of our model. However, we aren't a marketing platform. We pride ourselves on being experts in ticketing. We understand that marketing is a crucial part of events, ticketing, all of it. But we want to provide you with the tools so that you can go and do the marketing work that's going to make your event most successful and sell the most tickets. We've created this very cool analytical tool inside the platform. We have Google Analytics, we have Facebook Pixel, but you can use those in addition to the Humanitix Analytics tool. It'll provide you a heat map and show you on the map where geographically folks are coming from. It's going to show you the links that are being clicked the most. It's going to show you the age. It's going to show you the browser. It breaks down to marketing language that even I might not know or be an expert in. But if someone is or someone on their team is, they're going to be able to then take that data and then target advertisements towards those individuals and those audiences. And so instead of just giving information to the platform and say, help me sell more tickets, this is actually a much more focused, targeted, and analytical tool that is free of charge for you to use. And then because of your savings, you can put funds into then targeting advertisements and where they need to go. Instead of being a platform that says, we know how to get you tickets, we'd rather give you the tools and the ability to do so yourself, because ultimately you're the expert on your event, not us.
Got it. You're checking all the boxes, right? Like, you go features, distribution, then data. And what types of data are they getting access to? So the heat map thing, that's pretty interesting. I think that might be a little bit of a differentiator. So you're showing origination of the purchase of the ticket, because this is also really important from the other part of our podcast, which is travel, right? So finding out where these people are coming from. When I was over at Ticketmaster, there was a big study that was done that 25% of every live event ticket that was sold was from a person based on zip codes on the credit cards that would have been at least 100 miles from the venue. So if it's 100 miles, 25% of that, they need a hotel room. They got to stay somewhere. So that was the thought, is now, even just for Mario, there's a real innovative strategy here to merge ticketing and travel, and knowing the travel side of it and trying to find the various areas where you can get a little bit of margins. Margins can be very thin on the ticket side, but they're pretty healthy on the hotel. They're anywhere from 20 to 30%. Flights, not so much. You don't make any money on a flight. When you pull all three together, for example, or you couple that with other sort of experiential elements that you really can't place a value on, I don't know, a cooking class or a mixology class or something where there's it's a perceived value, you can really make a lot of money. I think that having the data and having the ability to say, hey, listen, if you are 100 miles away You need a hotel room, one, but also you're probably going to have extra time. So not just coming to the event, can we provide something else? Or maybe there's a partnership to be had. As we talk about a lot here at Tickets Travel, is that the merging of this, the travel experience, and your events or the tickets that you create for these events are driving the demand for the travel and all the other ancillary pieces that create the overall travel experience. So whether that's, I'll get a helicopter tour when I'm in Denver or a hiking tour, whatever it is, you're still there to go to that festival. You're still there to listen to bluegrass. But we're trying to understand. And the data that you guys create or capture and provide to the event organizer is valuable. It's super valuable. And so are there any pieces or any cases that you've seen in the past where that data has really directed an event organizer to be better in the next event?
What I can speak to is a lot of event organizers didn't have access to this data before, or they didn't understand that they could have access to their own data. And so even though it actually does exist, but they were never told where it is, they don't understand where it is. Now that there's clarity, we are not hiding this in any way because we want to give you this tool. So I think now that an event organizer can actually look and understand the zip codes and then say, oh, then that makes sense where I should be promoting my event. Same with the platforms. If they see that Instagram is actually doing better than Facebook, then they should be targeting their ads on Instagram and vice versa. That doesn't require expertise, a marketing firm, right? Just requires a simple click, a simple understanding. And so I think it's really giving people actually the education and the tools that don't cost a dime and just are a matter of providing the awareness that then can change how many tickets they sell because they now have the data. So I think that's a key piece. And that speaks for tech across every industry, right? People are just not getting the education that they deserve for their own events.
It's funny. It's like you go to if an event organizer is using a bigger ticketing platform or one that's more well-known, you're right. They don't know where to pull that information. They got to ask somebody, bribe somebody, whatever, get the reporting afterwards versus having real-time data in front of them. So I think that is very valuable. What's next for Humanitix? I think we know what's next. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's funny because Humanitix is like my baby. So now that I'm having a baby, it's a very bittersweet moment for me because I've been here since the beginning, but I'll be back. Just taking some leave to raise this thing. But yeah, great question. I think Humanitix has already had a massive evolution and growth and scale from when I started to now. And like I mentioned, we have 60 people across the globe. Just last month, we launched in the UK, which is extremely exciting, a whole other market. I think what's next is one of the biggest pieces for us is listening to our hosts. Our product is not going to stay as it is always. We are always evolving, and that comes from our hosts. It also comes from the feedback of the industry and paying attention to what matters most. So I think what's next for us is continuing to evolve, keeping that open mind. This last year, we gave $10 million to our partner charities in total from our founding, and we're on track to make that a whole lot more in 2025. And so what's next is to continue to prove to the world, ticketing, to event organizers that you can put on a kick-ass event while giving back a lot of money and still partaking in this capitalistic industry. That there's a way to do it all. That's what I would say is coming next.
And I would say that is a mic drop. So thank you.
Thank you
for coming to Ticket to Travel. I'm sure we'll keep track of your progress, obviously, and hopefully come back and see us again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mario.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Tickets to Travel, the business of travel experiences. Huge thanks goes out to Jessica Markowitz for sharing her incredible journey from nonprofit work to purpose-driven ticketing and giving us a front row seat to how Humanitix is flipping the script on how live events can drive real impact. If there's one big takeaway here, it's this. You can do good and still run a great business. Whether you're hosting a yoga retreat, managing a 30,000 person festival, or just trying to build community through events, there's a model that works and gives back. And in the case of Humanitix, that model just happens to be donating quite a bit of their profits. So if you're rethinking how your next event could make a difference, or just want to support tech that actually puts people first, you know where to look. To learn more about this episode and others, head to www.tttpod.com. That's tttpod.com. You'll find full episodes, show notes, and our growing library of stories from the front lines of travel, ticketing, and experiences. And of course, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, you name it, you will find us there. Follow us on all the socials as well, at Tix2TravelPod, to stay in the loop with behind-the-scenes content, upcoming guests, and the latest trends in travel and live events. Until next time, remember, every ticket is a ticket to travel. Safe travels.
Scrolling is listening. Your brand needs standout audio for social media, and Expo Travel Media makes it happen. Ear-catching radio spots, dynamic social media voiceovers, custom sound design that pops. We craft audio that stops the scroll and keeps your audience engaged. Whether it's a quick promo, a full campaign, or a killer ad, we bring the voice, music, and production magic to make it all shine. Let's make audio content that works. Visit expotravel.com for media production inquiries today.